Hi, my name is Wandie Kazeem. On the show today, we have Ronke Aderinoye, the CEO of Agrihub. Thanks for coming today.
Hi, Wandie. It's my pleasure to be here. I see agriculture more as a core for me. It was in SS2 in secondary school. I was in a geography class and we're studying the geography of Nigeria, vegetation, climate, and I just realized if we continued the way we were at that time, there was going to be a food crisis sometime in the future, and I just knew I had to do something about it. So that's when my interest in agriculture started. I wanted to study agriculture then, but I was not allowed to study it. I was told, why do you want to study agriculture? So I wanted to have a farm. I wanted to do something to change the agricultural sector. My agri teacher then called me and said to me, if you want to have a farm, then you don't have to study agriculture to have a farm. Obasanjo then was president and he had a farm. He was a popular farmer and he didn't study agriculture. So I should go ahead and study something good in university, in quotes. Then agriculture was not something good to study. And after that, I could then have a farm. So that's how my journey started. So I had to study something else. I studied biochemistry at the University of Lagos. But at every point in time, I was always soaking in information about agriculture. Anything agriculture ticked me. And unfortunately, I'm a Lagos girl. I was born, bred, and brought up in Lagos. So when everybody was going to their village for holidays, I didn't have any village to go to because my village was on Lagos Island. So I always looked for any opportunity to travel out of Lagos. So we had acculturation then, we went to villages. When we went to those villages, I'll go to their farms and see. Then we had a couple of other trips, geography excursions and stuff. I was always excited to go for any trip in school then that took me outside Lagos, so just see how villages and stuff were. So I started soaking up from then. After university, I went to serve. I served in Borno State. That's a 22-hour journey by road. And it was interesting. I think that's when my passion again got reignited, because I now had the opportunity to live amongst rurals and see firsthand how they farmed, how their agriculture was part of their lifestyle, their day-to-day living. And I also saw so many issues. I was a bit worried at how things were going at this scale and vowed to do something about it when I got back to Lagos after service here. So technically, that's how my journey started. So I started reading, attending as many agri programs as I saw, entered for as many youth agri competitions I could enter to meet people in the agri space. Then I lost a lot of money, so much money. I was so broke. I had to go to work. So I got this offer to work in the bank, and I worked in the bank for 5 years. But in those 5 years, I was spending money doing stuff in the agri space, and I was losing a lot of money at the same time. So those were the times I learned the salient lessons about how agriculture, for it to be done properly, you need to do it full time. As if you want to be part of it, you can't run it by proxy. There are not too many people that even understand the business of it. So if you're speaking English from one corner on the phone, something else is happening on the field and all that. So that's how my journey has been. So I resigned from the bank and started to run Agrihub fully like over a year ago.
So that's how Agrihub started. So tell us a little bit about Agrihub.
Okay, so Agrihub started in pretty much January 2016. And it was born out of my realization of the fact that there was an information challenge in the space. In as much as I wanted to change stuff, if people did not understand the dynamics of what they wanted to do, there was no point preaching certain messages to them. So I started off trying to educate people. If you're going on to be a farmer and you want to achieve global status, you have to produce stuff that industry can use. How do you know what industry needs to use? How do you know that for going into farming, let me use farming because farming is not equal to agriculture. Going into farming doesn't start with buying land. It starts with understanding what the market needs and building your production into that knowledge that you have. So a lot of people lose a lot of money doing things on that without that required knowledge and all that. So it started off with trainings, info sessions, guiding people, letting them know that. So our focus was building capacity, trying to share as much knowledge as possible that I have gained over the years for people to make those informed decisions to go into the space. Then also trying to link people within the space. There's that gap. Also, these are many opportunities that also abound, especially those with the IT and tech space. Directories that have up-to-date information about players along the value chain. So people keep seeking players along. So we serve like a linkage between these people. But it's been quite tough because it's more like I just do it for free. I've not yet monetized it and all that. But then Agrihub primarily about building capacity, and so we settled on our incubator programs that started this year, the Young Farmers Incubator Program and the Executive Farmers Incubator Program, where we train people over a 12-week period of what it entails to run a vegetable farm. And in those 12 weeks, aside from the technical training, we also teach them on the business planning, legal aspects of it, Google, and how to use internet to drive the produce online and stuff like that. So it's been quite rewarding. So
is there an age limit? How do I get into the youth farmers program?
Okay, so for the youth program, it's between the ages of 18 and 24.
Okay.
Although we have a lot of requests above the age of 24, but primarily it's targeted at those between the ages of 18 and 24. And the target is to train them to be able to manage farms. So to fill that resource gap in the sector.
And these are unemployed youths?
Yes, unemployed youths. You'd be shocked at how many youths are actually interested in going into the space, but they just need direction. You need to understand where are the opportunities, where is the space I can plug into if I had no capital or if I didn't have a very rich uncle. Because agriculture is actually quite expensive. It's the barriers to entry are quite high. When you talk about land and all the inputs, knowing the market, not being smallholder farmers, as in running a proper agri enterprise that has such impacts to change stuff.
So if someone wanted to get into the program, like how does it work? Where do you apply? How long is it?
Okay, so we have an application process. So for the youths, we have an applications that open at a certain time. So it's open now till the end of May. And then we do some screenings, we select, we interview, and the selected candidates are notified and deployed to the center. For the executive program, because that is paid for, this is targeted at people that are working and want to go into the agri space or have plans to invest in agriculture sometime in the future. So it's a Saturday-only program, so they just pick up the application, fill the application online and make payments, and as directed that.
And how long does this run for?
12 weeks.
Okay.
12 weeks.
So for the youth program, sorry, I'm coming back to that. When you apply, how many for a typical session, and it lasts for 3 months?
Yes.
So is it every day?
Yes.
For 3 months?
Yes.
So how long does it it works for 3 months, but how many applications do you get usually, and how many people do you consider? Is it paid for?
The first, because we started in February, the first applications we got over 400 applicants.
Of youths between 18 to 24? So
some were above 24, but we disqualified those because we had 400, so any reason to cut down the numbers worked. But even with cutting down the numbers that were above 24, we still had over 300 applicants for this program. So we screened on location, screened on maybe the person was going to serve at that point, various parameters, and yeah, we could take only 4 because that's what we could afford to take at that point. This is self-sponsored. It's sponsored by Agrihub. We didn't have any partners to sponsor. So, because we're trying to show that there are actually young people that are out there that genuinely are passionate about agriculture and want to do stuff. And if only they were given the leverage and the opportunity, they will learn and do great stuff. So
do you think it's a myth that young people are not interested in agriculture? Or do you think they're actually interested?
There are quite a number of young people interested. I've met so many passionate young people. I see passionate young people and I realize I'm not even as passionate as some people. I've met people that seem to be more passionate about me than me, and they're young people. I think the challenge is the systems in place doesn't really allow for that youth, how will I put it, for youths to really come out and do more in the space. There's so many limits from so many limits, starting from finance, for example. The reason why it's easier for older people, allow me to use the word older people, access finance.
People above 24.
Yeah, you have that social capital, you have a network that you can leverage on to raise funds if you're not going to raise, because if you're going to do any agri venture, it's better to raise funds from angel investors and stuff. You have that leverage of social capital to raise those funds. But someone that is 18, 19, where is he going to raise funds from? He can't go to the bank. He can't raise from his friends. So it's only if he has like maybe rich uncles or stuff, and he has to even prove that he's really interested in stuff. I remember when I was starting, and I started on my aunt's farm, and I used to go there every day. It was in Ekpe. I would take a bus from Surulere, go to Ekpe. At one point, she said, "You know, just stop." That she didn't know I was serious, but that it's a security risk. I mean, imagine how skinny I was then, like 6-7 years ago, and some days I'll be stopped by Omonile saying, "Where are you going? What are you doing here? Who are you here?" And the stories about people being waylaid and killed and stuff like that. And so there are also those security issues. Then they're in areas where there's no access to electricity, there's no access to power and electricity network in terms of data, communication and data and things like those are things that can keep young people constantly engaged, even if. So those are the major issues. So if I was going to set up a farm in some location in maybe Ogun or Oyo State, and I really wanted to be there, that means I would need to build a house or something that can allow me to stay on site and really be there. That increases the cost. If I wanted to practice the way it should be, I should have irrigation. That also increases my cost of setup, and all that is sunk cost. You're not even making money yet. For agriculture to be done right, certain things need to be in place, and those are also opportunities. Are there low-cost off-grid solutions for housing that can be deployed to rural areas that could attract more youth to stay there? When young people need to set up their farms and irrigate their farms, are there cheaper ways of setting up these irrigation systems? Because any farm managed by a young person that is rain-fed or dependent on rain is not going to be a successful enterprise. Sure. Irrigation is an increased cost. How do we subsidize irrigation for young people to farm so that they can be there year-round and have the best out of the produce in terms of price for their produce and in terms of value from the time they've spent there?
So do you think government should assist in this situation? Or the local government, or how? Because we hear government saying we're helping in agriculture, we're trying to attract more youths, there's an unemployment issue. So these things can be done, but how do we get there?
I think it's more about government being humble and letting the private sector realize they have a lot of work to do as well, appealing to the private sector and the government to work together. But then the government needs to also do their homework in showing the private sector what are these challenges, where are these opportunities, where can you plug into it. So if, for example, we are saying off-grid housing solutions, it's a major challenge. I remember when we were trying to develop the incubator program, because I was trying to deploy to other farms that could take on young people and train them over that period so that it is scalable. But the major challenge was, where would they stay? I don't have housing they would stay in, and I can't bear the cost of building a house to train people for free. So imagine if there was a low-cost solution that could be deployed in places like that.
Farms.
There'll be more young people able to access such training or such opportunities, basically. So are there low-cost housing opportunities? Are we having competitions or funding universities of technology, engineering to develop low-cost housing solutions that can be deployed to rural areas so that youths can stay?
Interesting.
So are there irrigation solutions that are being developed? Irrigation is just water getting to the plants. Are there other ways we can achieve this that are not high cost? How can we find those solutions and deploy it to these young people so that it is easier for them to grow year round? So those are things. So it's not like, it's like how you have the SDGs and you have goal 1, goal 2, goal 3, goal 4, and you highlight what the major challenges in each of these goals are. And so when private sector looks at it, they can say, oh, irrigation is a major issue. I can take, for example, tractor hiring services. I speak to people about how it's a very lucrative business, and they're like, people don't use tractors, why is it a lucrative business? And I'm like, for us to get to where we want to get to, we need to have more mechanized farming. And if you can't mechanize if there are no tractors. But the tractor to farmer ratio in Nigeria is like practically 0.0 something. And how do we mechanize if there are no tractors? And if you do the business case for tractor hiring service, there's a very huge industry in that space, because you have every smallholder farmer is your potential customer, and every farmer must at least perform 3 operations a year, and you charge per operation. So you might multiply that.
So it's a win-win for everybody.
It's a win-win for everybody. But people are not aware that those are challenges in the space, and that's the value of that opportunity. That is more of what the Ministry of Agriculture can do, so that people can actually see that these are actually the opportunities, and not just say there are so many opportunities along the value chain. Empirical data that they can use to make a justified decision to make that investment.
Narrow targets the opportunities, because definitely you still want to do hoe and cutlass. We're past that. Nobody wants to do that.
Exactly.
So what do you think about this program, this MasterCard and MSU, Michigan State University partnership?
It's fantastic. It's pulled on the strings of my heart. That's why I postponed my trip today to be here, because I'm like, a lot of times I'm like, we don't need aid in Africa. We just need knowledge transfer.
And be able to execute it.
Exactly. So if people had that knowledge and were able to apply it, then a lot of things would change. A lot of things would change. That's just the major issue. If you're able to apply this knowledge, because that's what's missing. I feel it's just a knowledge issue. So if with this you have a transfer of knowledge, people are better understand how like a farm enterprise should run. Because really, if I ask you, there's really no template here for anything.
Yeah.
So if you wanted to go into farming now, you rely on maybe Nairaland, a few people here and there, yeah. Somebody saying I'm an expert in this, but you have not seen any successful enterprise per se that shows that this expertise. So those are the things that are prevalent. Those standards also, and those like standard agronomy. So if you're saying we want people to go into rice farming, there should be a published document that shows the standard agronomic practices for us in Nigeria.
So the government to tell us the stats, the quality, the specs.
Exactly. So people
for
can
exports and how to work.
So people can just follow, and we won't have to start wondering, oh, where do we get this data? How do we work on this? So with this coming together of MSU, their partners with IITA and all that, and their plan to train 15,000 young people is fantastic. Okay,
so it seems like you're really passionate about the 18 to 24-year-olds, the youths. So what do you, there are a lot of youths, we know that, you know that firsthand, they're trying to get into agriculture. What advice do you give to people trying to get into the sector?
Okay, so primarily, one is it requires a lot of patience. It's not a get-rich quick system. You have to be patient. 2 is you need to be open to constantly learning, because you're going to learn. You have to keep learning. It's not something that I've known it all and I'm going to go out and execute what I know. No, you have to keep learning. Be open to applying new technologies and stuff. And also to do your homework in terms of understanding what your markets, what you're producing for. That if you're going into farming, if you're going to other parts of the value chain, understand what the market needs first before trying to produce. Don't produce and force it down the throat of the market. That's what a lot of people do. There's no blah 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 in the Nigerian market, I'm going to start. No, understand what the market wants. Start with the small, experiment, scale, and that, but always have at the back of your mind that it's not just about you and your local environment. It's about going global. As a country, we need to get it right in terms of agriculture, because the whole of Africa depends on us. You'll be shocked at how much the other African countries look up to us.
Also,
Nigeria looks up to Nigeria. So until we get it right, so many other African countries may not get it right. So our models are what the other African countries will use eventually. But yeah, so patience, not be in a hurry to start big, even if you have all the money in the world or the opportunities in the world. Start small, have the big picture in mind, and listen to what the market needs. Do it. It's a business, it's not an NGO. So if the market doesn't want what you're producing or what you're doing, then you're just doing it for yourself. So those are the things, and be open to learn. Keep learning, keep learning and keep learning. It never stops.
And of course, enroll into agriculture. So for youths trying to get into, just even not youths, just people in general that they're trying to get into the market, access to financing, big issue. Are they SME funds people can access? Is anything available?
Well, quite frankly, if you're trying to get into farming along the value chain, you might not really be able to access funding to start off your venture. You may be able to access funding maybe to expand after you have started and run for about a year or two. Primarily, you'll be targeting angel funds, friends and family and all that. But if you're going into processing and other parts in the value chain, yeah, you may be able to get some form of funding, like the BOIs of this world, some SME funding, because it's a lower risk venture when you are processing, because you have to produce, you process, you can take to market almost immediately, you start processing. So it's easier for those along the value chain, not necessarily just farming, to access funding. But then again, you also need to be careful what type of funding you are trying to get at the early stage of your business. But if it's pure farming, I would advise you bootstrap your way up, grow gradually, build that credibility, and over time you get more funding into your business.
So one of the topics I wanted to ask you about is gender, women and farming, well, in agriculture. So there are all those challenges, access to land, the women are the ones working. What are your insights? What do you think?
Well, women in agriculture, it depends on what angle now. But let me look at it from farming, for example. The first few times I had to buy land, I had to go with male friends to pretend to be like they're the ones buying the land, because it's not been one, I was young and so on to buy land. Like, who does that? It's like women don't buy land, so to speak. In the rural areas, women don't own land. That's how that's sort of mentality. So you have to so I had to go looking like, oh no, I'm just following these guys, we are buying land together and blah blah blah. And especially when you also want to buy large parcels of land, you still have that issue of trying to let them see that, because if you go forward as they are the woman buying, they just come with all sorts of stories and blah blah. They always want to extort more. But when you have the guys, it's guy to guy and all that. But over time, it's the relationship grows, but that's past the initial first time meeting and all that. So that's one angle. Secondly, especially with my friends that are in the space that are female, I've also noticed that a lot of us hold back. I think especially young females in agriculture, we hold back. I don't know whether it's the fear of success or trying to be too big too fast and thinking people might think she's unreachable or stuff like that. So I've seen amongst us a lot of us not wanting to step out and take that risk of taking investors or scaling so fast. You want to grow organically, even if the business is screaming for investment. So I think there's also that mentality, that mindset amongst women also in the space to also break that. So
what advice do you give us women in the space?
Because I'm giving myself the advice. So because I give myself the advice as well, to allow yourself achieve. It's not limited to men. You can also achieve great things. It's possible. But in terms of processing and stuff, most times it's mostly women that are there in that space in terms of processing farm produce, other byproducts, gari, cassava, flour. That's the domain where you find a lot of women, even at SMEs and stuff. So yeah, I would say women have found their place somehow, but in terms of crop production and farming, more guys are there because it seems like the heavy lifting, like I want to go set up a commercial farm with tractors and blah blah. You hardly see females doing that. It's the guys, they're always thinking big scale, blah blah blah. But when you're talking of processing, let's convert this cassava to gari and to bean, to see more women on that space. I don't know whether it's the risk or the fact that you have to go into bushes and do all that. But there's also that side of the story as well. There's a lot of risk in production. So those are the things I see basically involved. Agrihub is getting you to fall in love with agriculture, letting you see the new possibilities and opportunities that can be harnessed in the agri space. We do this through our various capacity building sessions that hold monthly, our Young Farmers Incubator Program, Executive Farmers Incubator Program. These are 12 weeks intensive programs that enable you to learn what it entails running a proper vegetable farm from end to end, from seed in the ground to harvest. Aside from that, we're also building clusters of farm estates to enable young people leverage on the economies of scale. Every journey begins with one step, and the first step you can take is to begin to grow your own food at home. It's possible to do this. You don't need so many things. If you're a Nigerian and you've ever queued for fuel, you've ever gone to market to buy sacks of food, or you go to Owambe parties, then you have the materials you need to start growing your own food. Cut those kegs up and turn them to container pots for your plants. Grow your ugu, grow your spinach, grow your parsley, grow your tomatoes at home, and let's start the movement from our homes. Our children will begin to pick up the interest in the agricultural space, and one of them will invent solutions that will change the sector.